What's going on, guys? This video is brought to you by StoneAgeGamer.com. It's where I go for retro games, accessories, systems, plus more. Be sure to check out StoneAgeGamer.com and see for yourself. Hey guys, what's going on? This is John with Gamester81.com. This is part 2 of the top 10 best local multiplayer games of all time. I'll put a link to part 1 here so you can check them out. I'm joined by Mike and his crew at Living in 8-Bits, and we're going to go over our top 5 now best local multiplayer games of all time. Thanks for watching, guys. Let's take a closer look.
Number 5.
Bubble Bobble is a game that I never see on top 10 lists, and I don't understand why. It is such an awesome game, and it's another one of those early games that you were able to play simultaneous co-op. And in a way, you're helping each other out, but you're also competing with each other for points and lives. And if you run out of lives, you could steal a life from the person you're playing with. But what makes it so noticeable or memorable in a local multiplayer sense is that the only way you can get the real ending for the game is it has to be 2-player. But it was one of those games that some of my friends and we just tried to master. I love that game. I think for some reason, it's so underrated, but it's one of the best games on the NES.
Bubble Bobble is another great arcade port to the NES from Taito, or is it Tato? Potato.
This was a game that was popular in my childhood, mostly at sleepovers, because you had to play all night. Because there was, how many levels were there? Like 100? And I never beat it, but man, we tried until we fell asleep.
I love the music in Bubble Bobble. Granted, it's very repetitive, but so catchy. I mean, you can't not smile listening to this music.
I was a Nintendo person. I had a lot of friends who were Sega people, but for me, people would come over to my house and I had that game Bubble Bobble. And Bubble Bobble was great because most people had no idea what it actually was, at least in my social circle. But they start playing and they're like, I'm a dinosaur and I shoot bubbles and I eat carrots or something and I don't know what's happening. And you hit monsters and they go off the screen. It made no sense at all. I have no idea what I was doing playing that game, but it was really a lot of fun. It was fun single player and it was even more fun multiplayer.
Number 4.
Super Smash Bros. Changed the whole dynamic of how fighting games were played. Before, it was games like Street Fighter 2, Art of Fighting, Mortal Kombat, etc., where it was you had a life bar, and when the life bar is gone, you're dead. Pretty straightforward. Where Smash Bros. Is you're supposed to knock your opponent off the edge. And sometimes you feel like, I felt like anyway, that I was playing a person locally, I feel like I get them and knock them off, and they all of a sudden float back on stage and they end up kicking my ass anyway.
All right, I love Smash Brothers. Anything Smash Brothers is great in my book. I'll go down from the beginning. One, very simple. It was new. It was so cool seeing all these Nintendo characters fighting, and just like Mortal Kombat. But now you got like 4 people, and you can get 4 friends and just fight each other.
Smash Brothers. Oh. My favorite thing about Smash Brothers was the baseball bat. I remember discovering, I know, if I use the word discover, everyone's going to think that I was the first one to find it when the game came out. I use the term loosely. I remember playing with my friends and discovering the baseball bat and getting really excited that we had the baseball bat, because then you learn how to use it, and when you got that ping, you hit ping, and you get really excited, yeah, and you hit somebody and you see them go flying off the screen, like, ah.
I played that once with Ponner and Mike, and I got murdered. I'm like, oh, Solid Snake, he'd be awesome. No.
I don't know how anybody, even if you weren't good at the game, and I'm not good at the game, but it's easy to see why it's so fun. All your favorite Nintendo characters beating the crap out of each other, that was a good time to me.
Super Smash Brothers is hands down one of the most awesome fighting games, and it's hard to pick one. You can't pick one. I mean, it's as a franchise as a whole, it's great.
it doesn't really matter that I suck at fighting games. It's still kind of fun to just jump into the middle of chaos and have 3 of your friends all beating up on each other and joining the mess. It's really the closest thing to mayhem I've seen in a multiplayer game. And it's definitely one where people who've never played a game before ever can just pick up a controller and start playing it. So, can you really get excellent at it? I don't know, but you can definitely hold your own, even if you're terrible at things like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, like I am.
Number 3.
That game I liked a lot as well. The thing I remember the most about that game was that one level where you were riding on like those floating surfboards towards the city. Because I always like things where you have to kind of be racing someone, or I don't know. That's my favorite part.
Oh yeah, it was a party game. Whenever you had a sleepover, it was always Turtles in Time, and you can never beat friggin' Shredder at the end because you like turned into 2. Was that Turtles in Time? That was Turtles in Time, right? I don't know, but Shredder would turn into 2. And man, it was like everyone's like, which one's the real Shredder? And he'd kill all of you, and there'd be one guy left with 1 health bar. And you couldn't even get to the end of the thing because that one guy would always die, and you had to start at the very beginning, and everyone would be mad at that one dude that died last, even though technically he was the best.
I think Turtles in Time is a little bit better than the original Turtles arcade. Don't get me wrong, the original one's great as well, but they had new bosses, new levels. The port to the Super Nintendo was brilliant. It's nearly an arcade perfect port.
TMNT 4, Turtles in Time, Super Nintendo. This was finally the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game I was waiting for.
It wasn't until Turtles in Time where we felt like we were playing the actual arcade game. Everything from the animation to the controls to the style of gameplay. I would say the only downside to it was you never got to play 4-player co-op on a home system, at least growing up. Because that was the joy of at least playing in the arcade. You got to have all 4 turtles on screen at a time just eating things up. And I can't understand why we cannot get another good local multiplayer Turtles beat 'em up. It's been, what, 20 years? Give us a good game, and from what I've heard, Out of the Shadows is horrible. So give us a good Turtles beat 'em up, please.
I love the Super Nintendo port because they use great use of Mode 7, where you're taking the foot soldier and you can actually swing to hit the camera, which is pretty sweet.
Also, Turtles in Time, whenever I throw somebody at the camera, I try to do it again, but I could not ever, even now, I have it on Xbox Live Download where they reanimated it in HD, I cannot figure out what combination to throw the guy at the camera and make him slide down and like all mad and in pain. That made me so mad.
It was as close to the arcade as you could get, I think, for the time. It still holds up. It's still my favorite Turtles game. And it always bothered me, though, because Raph was my favorite character in the cartoon and the movies. But his weapon in the video games, I mean, you had to be Donatello, or Leo, or Mike, or anybody but Raph.
I didn't get a Super Nintendo until really late, like almost when the N64 came out, but I had the Turtles games for the original NES, and I had played Turtles in Time in the arcade, and from the instant I played it in the arcade, I thought, I cannot wait for this to come to the console. It looks amazing, it's so much fun to play, and I was just like, it was one of the games that when it came out for the Super Nintendo and I didn't have a Super Nintendo, it was one of the motivating factors for me to get one because it was just that cool. And once I finally got a Super Nintendo, even though it was like 1995, it totally lived up to those expectations, and playing that game with friends was way better even than playing it by myself, which I still did hundreds and hundreds of times.
Number 2.
Like growing up, me and my brother, my brother never let me play video games with him because I was like younger and a girl. And the only game we could ever play together was Mario Kart, so I felt like it was really special. But he beat me all the time, so I would always cry and whine. So we started playing Upside Down, so I had a better advantage but really I still lost terribly. But it was fun and it was a good memory.
Oh, I like when you can use like 4 remote, or you can have like 4 remotes hooked up, and then you have like the screen. There's like 4 little blocks, so you can see what the other players are doing and then sneak up on them and blow them up.
All right, Mario Kart is one of those things, is that in Mario Party, where my friends and I have all played and someone left at the end of the night angry. Just, it's some of the ways you cheat and like go to like get the first place, the blue shell, just, it's cool. Like you think you're in the lead and all of a sudden, oh, your friend sends a blue shell. And you're like, I hate you for the rest of the night. And then I'm gonna come over your house tomorrow. But just it's fun. It's, you got the power-ups, you got, you can send the bullets to hit people, and, just like, it's Smash Brothers with a race. And just seeing all the environments, the Mario worlds, the beach, and the chain chomps, and nothing wants you to get the first place. But you gotta try and maneuver, take shortcuts, blue shell it, and then you'll win the race.
My favorite thing about Mario Kart I love racing games. I love any game where you don't have to kill things. So that was probably my favorite game, because it was a competitive game, but you didn't have to kill anyone. You just had to race, but there was still strategy because of all the extra little moves you could do. My favorite special move to do in Mario Kart was the lightning bolt, when everyone else would get really tiny and then you could run them over. It was the best part for me.
So I played so much Mario Kart that I one time had my best friend Mike at the time come over to my house, and we had nothing else that we really had to do. We couldn't think of anything else to do, so we pulled out Mario Kart and we played actually 100 games of Mario Kart in a row in battle mode. I think I won about 2/3 of them, and he won the other third, and weren't even really paying close attention to it until the end, and we were having a conversation the whole time, and we were just fighting and battling and throwing red shells at each other, and it was probably 6 hours or something, but 100 games straight of Mario Kart, and it never got old.
So Mario Kart, we used to alternate. It was me, Steve, Pat, and this guy Jason. Now, to preface this whole thing, we used to go back and forth by playing Mario Kart and GoldenEye. We'd play them both back and forth, depending upon, what the consensus was. All right, now, it was me. I'm like $170 at the time. I was probably like 140. My 2 other friends, who were probably as small as I was, 140, and we're playing Mario Kart with the captain of the football team, who loved to play GoldenEye and Mario Kart. And he was like me. He had a really bad, he was really bad at losing. He was a really sore loser. To the point where, he would just beat us up all the time if he lost and we beat him. He would get so annoyed. He had a beanbag chair in his game room, as we'll call it, the family room area. And he would just consistently throw that, just across the room, just so mad. And he was, probably like 230 pounds. Standing like 6'5", and he's just like, raw, picks it up, throws it, like one of us sitting on the beanbag just picks it up, just lifts us off and throws us across the room, like, you guys suck, because we always thought he was teaming up on him. He'd just start approaching the finish line, and one of us would have the red shell, and well, we obviously want to win, but he never understood that. He would, I want to win too, And of course, when you get hit by the red shell, if everybody's right behind the guy who's behind you, then you don't drop one position. You obviously drop all the positions down. And he used to just get so pissed over and over again with that game.
One of my favorite aspects of Mario Kart 64, of course, playing locally, is battle mode. I mean, come on, this is awesome. You had this 3 balloons, you had to pop those 3 balloons. I'd always get the red shell, and with my luck, I'd fire it at someone, and then they would drop a green shell, or they'd make a turn, or they use a boost, and I would not hit them. That was my luck, but it was so much fun to play multiplayer battle mode, and playing 4-player particularly, that was awesome. It was cut up in 4 different split screens. What a great concept by Nintendo to do that, and it's one of the best racing games on the N64.
Well, Mario Kart, started for the Super Nintendo, but I think it finally came into its own in the Nintendo 64 with the advent of 4-player co-op. Finally splitting the screen even though your TVs were real small back then, splitting it into 4, you didn't mind. It was awesome. And yeah, try and drive like a crazy person and drop banana peels and make the other people crash.
Mario Kart 64 was one of the first games that I would say was like a local multiplayer tournament. Everything from the battle mode to the racing mode, it was 4-player. It really became a phenomenon in terms of for college years. I remember people would literally take projectors and project a 4-player tournament on the side of a house or on a big screen and have a big battle mode match or a racing tournament. It was the game, I think, to play in college. And I love it. I mean, who doesn't love Mario Kart?
Number 1.
I played GoldenEye through high school, through college, for years after the N64 was stopped supported. And the best thing about playing GoldenEye was the multiplayer mode. They had some really cool maps that you had. It was really the first-person shooter game that I remember playing multiplayer on, and just getting that multiplayer itch and that bug, right? And if it wasn't for games like GoldenEye, you probably wouldn't see games like Halo or Call of Duty today. So to me, GoldenEye should be like the grandfather of first-person multiplayer games.
GoldenEye is without a doubt the best local multiplayer game. You can't discount what it did. Not only for the first-person shooter, but just for playing as a group. And it would be amazing if that game could be in its exact original fashion with the original graphics and controls be made so that you could create 4 different TVs and play simultaneously. But it's without a doubt one of the best you're ever gonna find. Just from all the different modes, the customization, different kinds of weapons, everything from playing with like these heavy-duty rocket launchers or proximity mines or slappers only, you know, where you but I would say the mode that my friends and we played a lot, it was pretty much in the facility map, you would play guard the bathroom. So it was whoever had control of the bathroom, because there was no spawn point in there, there was no way, there was only one entrance, in or out. So it was essentially like playing capture the flag or jailbreak, but with the bathroom there, and you would set up remote mines around it and get people, or proximity mines.
If you know, when on the N64, I mean, I know I'm not the only one who knew this trick, but you know, if you use the C button, you know how it had the 4 C buttons, the up, down, left, and right. If you use those, you actually ran a little bit faster. And you could run, you know, and as soon as you start, you'd be like, all right, where's the golden gun? You'd be running to it like sideways, and your screen's just going like this as you're turning. You're trying to find each corner because you're only looking at a cat corner, and it's funny to like when you see us all. As we'd run by each other, everybody would be running sideways as they go to the golden gun. And, you know, of course, the whole time as you're doing it, you're screaming at each other, like, ah! You know, running to get it.
There was one time we were playing GoldenEye, and one of my friends got tired of playing, so he sat out, but he just started watching my screen. And instead of being mediocre at the game, suddenly having someone basically whispering in my ear as to what it was that was around the next corner, I suddenly had 30 kills in a row against everyone else, and they're like, what are you doing? How are you doing that? And no one could put together that it was our friend who had dropped out of the game that was feeding me intel on the other 3 screens. It was awesome.
GoldenEye was amazing because they had so many cheat codes for James Bond. I never played the game pure because I'm a jerk, but they had paintball mode, they had no clip, there was like this gunship island on the far end of the island of the first level. No one knew about it because they never really built it into the game, but you could no clip and you can go all the way out there and there's nothing there, but it's just cool to see. But just shooting people in multiplayer in James Bond, that was my first actual multiplayer LAN experience. Well, not LAN, but like 4 people going against everybody in one room on one map. That was pretty good. Found out I was good at that.
One of my fondest memories I have playing GoldenEye multiplayer would be proximity mines. So we would do proximity mines only. So basically what we do is we lay proximity mines all over the place, and basically how it works, if you walk by it, sensitive, they blow up. So like half the time you blow up yourself, not forgetting where you put them, but it just made it for an interesting dynamic. So you're kind of all nervous turning your corner because boom, you could die out right away.
License to Kill was the way I thought you had to play multiplayer. It was the most fun for me, but the problem with that was proximity mines. I mean, arguably the most fun weapon in the game, but when you played License to Kill, if the smoke touched you, that was it. It was enough to, inhalation, smoke inhalation, death.
And but I remember the one level, I think it was the library, and it was on the top floor. And that was the spot that was really difficult. And it was in a hallway on the top floor. And you had and all you did was just run back and forth in the hallway, because the one side of the hallway, there was the stairs that came up, or the ramp, and the other side you could look down into the main room. So if you were good, you could pick people off from the main room and then go back and protect yourself from the other, people coming up the stairwell. And yeah, many hours are killed with that. And we had a rotation, because it got to the point where there was more of us that were playing than just the 4.
I forget the name of the mode, but there was a mode where one-shot kills. That was the way we would play, because it's no fun coming up on your friend with machine guns and just shooting and shooting and shooting. But if you've got one-shot kills, there's some stealth involved, and suddenly you're actually like trying to sneak around each other and land mines and things like that. It was a lot of fun.
Well, guys, that concludes our top 10 best local multiplayer games of all time. I want to say a big thank you to Mike and his crew at Living in 8-Bits for joining me in this list. Had a blast doing it. Thanks, guys. Guys, definitely check these guys out. They've got a great show. I know you guys will really enjoy them. I'll put a link below. If you guys want to stay in touch with me, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter. I recently joined Instagram. Also, follow me on my website, Gamester81.com. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you guys soon. Take care.